Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something really quite unique. We're diving into this fascinating snapshot of our world, basically seen through the lens of an AI. It's just compiled the top 10 global news stories from the past, well, about 10 hours, as of this morning, July 15, 2025. So our mission here, really try to cut through all that noise, want to pull out the most important nuggets, the key information, and connect the dots across these honestly incredibly diverse global headlines. Think of it as your real-time pulse check on the key events shaping things right now as they're still unfolding. It's genuinely remarkable when you look at it. The sheer range of stories here. I mean, we're going from a distant asteroid zooming past Earth all the way to shifting international trade winds and even some very real, very difficult humanitarian crises unfolding. It just makes you realize how much is happening all at once. So, yeah, let's unpack this.
It's striking, isn't it, how quickly these events converge and how deeply interconnected they truly are, even when they seem completely separate at first glance. It really is like seeing the world's gears turning, but in hyperspeed.
That's a great way to put it. Hyperspeed. Okay, so let's kick things off with headline number one. This one genuinely sounds like something out of a movie, an asteroid flyby. So today,
Yes.
July 15th, 2025, there's this 280-foot asteroid, 2025 MA90. It's doing a close pass of Earth, zooming by at, get this, 20,263 miles per hour. Now, the good news is it's harmless, but it's still being called a rare event. And it's definitely got the attention of space agencies worldwide.
Right. And this kind of event, while yes, harmless this time, it absolutely galvanizes planetary defense experts. It really does. The core insight here, I think, is that every close pass like this gives us invaluable data. It just underscores how critically important early detection and tracking are, especially when we think about larger known threats like Apophis 2029, which is, well, still on the horizon. Each encounter like this helps refine our defensive strategies. It teaches us how to better predict and maybe potentially mitigate future risks.
Okay, so it's less about this specific asteroid being a danger and more about what we learn for the future, for preparedness. That's a crucial distinction. Now, moving from, well, the vastness of space, let's pivot to the shifting sands of U.S. foreign policy. Headlines 2 and 3 really focus on this. President Trump's bold moves regarding Ukraine and Russia is being described as a dramatic shift. Trump has backed a, quote, massive Patriot missile deal for Ukraine. And he's also been voicing harsh criticism of Putin. And he's laid down some pretty serious conditions, too. A demand for a ceasefire within 50 days. Or else. 100% tariffs on Russia.
Exactly. And the sources confirm he's really doubling down on that. It's not just Russia either. Any country that trades with Russia now faces, quote, severe or even 100% secondary tariffs if peace isn't secured in Ukraine. Now, NATO and many analysts are definitely viewing this as a hardline pivot in U.S. foreign policy. It's a significant change in stance. The Commerce Department is even probing chip and drone supply chains tied to all this. The real takeaway here, I think, is this unprecedented use of, well, economic leverage as a primary foreign policy tool. It signals a new era of what some are starting to call tariff diplomacy.
Tariff diplomacy. That's quite a phrase. What do you see as the most significant risk of this kind of, well, all-or-nothing approach? Not just for Russia, obviously, but maybe for U.S. alliances, given these kinds of pronouncements have such immediate global ripple effects?
That's an excellent question. The immediate risk is undoubtedly the disruption of established global supply chains, and also the potential alienation of key trading partners who might just get caught in the crossfire. It sort of forces countries to choose sides in a way they might not want to, which, could inadvertently push them closer to, well, alternative alliances.
Right. Speaking of trade and alliances, let's shift gears again. Headline number 4, the impending U.S.-Japan trade talks. These are set to happen at the Osaka Expo. Japan's Prime Minister Ishiba is meeting with U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent. And these talks are happening under the shadow of looming 25% U.S. tariffs on Japanese imports. So tension there.
This really highlights a complex, multi-layered global trade environment. You can see traditional alliances being reshaped right now. And if we broaden our view a bit, this is further emphasized by headline number 9, which notes that Treasury Secretary Bessent has, again, skipped the G20 Finance Summit in Durban.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. And apparently, Trump's tariff threats, alongside existing BRICS tensions, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, those are really dominating the discussions at that summit. It's also interesting that EU leaders are apparently planning a competitiveness alliance with Japan, which speaks to a broader realignment, doesn't it? A search for new economic partnerships in this environment.
So many moving pieces. Countries looking for stability amidst all this pressure. That economic discussion actually brings us pretty neatly to headline number 5, Indonesia. There's a Reuters poll indicating that most economists expect Bank Indonesia to cut its rate from 5.50% down to 5.25%. That's expected tomorrow, July 16th, and they're citing low inflation as a key reason.
Right. But importantly, the poll also mentions concerns about rising U.S. trade tensions as a contributing factor. So again, we're seeing direct economic consequences of those policies we just talked about, influencing decisions thousands of miles away. It's particularly compelling how this specific regional adjustment, like Indonesia's potential rate cut, seems to contrast quite sharply with the broader market optimism we see in headline number 6.
Yeah, that's a fascinating juxtaposition. Headline 6 says global markets are gaining on earnings optimism. Stocks rallied across Asia and Europe. The dollar is holding firm. And specifically, NVIDIA's return to China with its H2O chips is adding to that overall tech optimism. So it's this interesting blend, isn't it? Cautious regional moves, but buoyant global sentiment, particularly in tech. Does this kind of tech-driven optimism, though, does it really reflect broader economic health? Or is it more just a specific sector surging ahead?
That's always the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, while tech can certainly drive growth, yes, but the underlying currents of these trade tensions, the geopolitical uncertainty, it means that this optimism could be quite fragile. It suggests maybe investors are betting more on specific company performance rather than a really robust, stable global recovery, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. A bit of a narrow base for the optimism, perhaps.
Okay.
Okay, now let's unfortunately turn to a much more somber note. Headline number 7. The devastating flash floods in central Texas. The details are just awful. The death toll is nearing 130, and tragically, that includes 27 children. Over 160 people are still missing.
It's just terrible. And this crisis, as the sources cite, is drawing significant criticism regarding federal budget cuts, specifically for early warning systems. And these cuts are happening, quote, amid worsening climate extremes. If you step back to see the broader implications, this isn't just a tragic weather event, it's a stark reminder. Infrastructure neglect, combined with the increasing frequency, the intensity of climate-related disasters, it creates a catastrophic vulnerability. It really raises an important question about how prepared we truly are, for these changing global climate patterns. And this also links directly to a point in headline number 10, actually.
That human toll is just heartbreaking, and it certainly puts the whole climate discussion into stark, painful relief. Before we get to those final points in 10, though, there was also a key development on the geopolitical front with Iran. Headline 8 reports Iran's foreign minister announced bilateral meetings with Russia and China. This is happening on the sidelines of the SKO summit, that's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and it seems aimed at securing support following an air campaign in Israel. So, yeah, another active geopolitical front to watch. Okay, and that brings us to the final key points pulled from headline number 10. It's a bit of a mix. First, we're seeing an, quote, explosion of measles across Europe and Central Asia, and the source explicitly links it to vaccine hesitancy, a public health crisis brewing there.
Right. Then, on the economic side, and this connects right back to our earlier discussion about climate risk and the Texas floods, insurers are ramping up what are called catastrophe bonds. It's a financial tool, essentially allowing them to transfer climate risk to investors, hedging against increasing climate-related losses. It really highlights how the financial world is now directly responding to these environmental realities.
Fascinating financial adaptation there. And finally, a big business note from that same headline, number 10. BYD, the Chinese automaker, is rapidly narrowing the gap on Tesla's EV market share, which signals a really significant shift happening in the electric vehicle industry and, well, global competition in that sector.
Wow. Okay. So we've just covered an incredible breadth of information in this deep dive. I mean, from an asteroid zooming past Earth to the intricate dance of global trade negotiations, these new forms of diplomacy, and then down to the very real, very human impacts of climate change and public health crises. It truly reinforces how these seemingly disparate events, they paint a clear and sometimes challenging picture of our incredibly interconnected world. It truly does. And maybe, as you reflect on what you've heard today, maybe consider this. How do the individual actions of nations, or even companies like the ones highlighted in these news stories, how do they contribute to or perhaps detract from global stability and progress? What stands out to you as maybe the most surprising or the most impactful development from today's headlines? And, how might it evolve in the coming weeks? Just something to think about.
Definitely food for thought. Keep those questions in mind as you go about your day, and maybe even seek out more about the implications of some of these rapid developments. Thank you so much for joining us on the Deep Dive.